Hey guys, JC Smith here. I'm going to do a video on the plasma cutter I chose. I know I told you weeks ago that I've been kicking around buying one and hadn't made a decision. I'd been looking at specs and looking at this and looking at that, and you know, its capabilities, its cost, and the overall name brand and its reputation. So what I came to after talking to everybody that I knew and looking at everything and the actual cost of it was I went with a Hypertherm. What I understand is Hypertherm does one thing. They do plasma cutters, and they do it very well. They've been doing it a long time. So that's where we went. The models I was looking at, typically I tend to do more than I need when I buy something. I try and buy just a little bit bigger than we need. That way when needs change or what we're doing changes, we're covered. In this case, I did buy a little bit more capabilities than we need, but it is, I mean, we're right there. The majority of what we're going to do is smaller than what the abilities of the machine is, but occasionally we'll get into something that might be slightly bigger. So what happened was I narrowed it down to the Hypertherm Powermax 65XP and the Powermax 45XP. And those were the two I was looking at. I was leaning towards the 65 for the capabilities, but the 45 for cost. There was a significant difference. I don't mean just, you know, $50, $60, $100. It was hundreds and hundreds of dollars difference between those two. And I couldn't justify that spending of what the difference was for the small amount more it could do. In the, excuse me, the XP, the 45 XP and the 65 XP, in a 20 inch per minute cut, the thickness difference was 1/8 of an inch. In a 10 inches per minute, it was still an 1/8 inch difference. So I called my dealer, and he told me, he says, hey, listen, one of our other stores has the Hypertherm Powermax 45. It's not the XP, it's the version before it. It's brand new, it's just they came out with the XPs. Now, I hadn't thought about that, and I didn't really know the specs on it, whatever, and he told me real quick. So once I figured the specs on it and they gave me the costs on it, what we would pay, it was very attractive. So needless to say, it can do an 1/8 inch less than the 45, which we're kind of getting away from the 65, so now we're down to 1/4 less than what the 65 can do. And most times I would have said, no, that's not going to work, but for what we do, the majority of what we're going to use that for is fabricating. It's not going to be cutting things apart that are already welded together, that are tough to get to, and you don't have access to both sides. The majority of what we're going to do is I'm going to have a piece of material on a bench ready to go put on a truck or piece of equipment that we are making right there, where worst case I could flip the thing over and then recut it if I have to. And I'm okay with that. The number of times a year that we will actually have to do that is very minimal. The majority of the time that the machine's going to do more than we need all the time. So with that in mind, he gave me the price on the one that is not the XP. It's basically okay, we're going to close out this version because a new version came out. We deal with this all the time with everything we buy, right? Whether it's a TV or a computer or whatever. The old model's a little bit cheaper. It's not any less, because it was great when they were telling you how, you know, when they were promoting that one, when that was the current model. But, you know, the new one has some features that I don't necessarily need. In fact, I'm certain some of the features that are on the newer model I would never use. And, you know, we were talking about $400 more for the newer model. So anyways, I chose this one. Now, this was the last one that they had, and somewhere along the lines, a customer came in and needed a replacement torch. They didn't have it, so they pulled it out of this machine. Now, I believe this machine came with a 20-foot torch. We end up getting a 25-foot torch in place of it. A couple other things. Being it was the last one, it came with a box of consumables. This is what it comes with. A shield, a couple electrodes, and a couple nozzles, and I got them to throw in a few extras. And now these are expensive. I mean, it's surprising how much money you would spend on this little box right here. So I got them to throw in some extra stuff there, and I was very pleased. I've used it a little bit. My son used it a lot. I've used it a little. It's amazing. I'm surprised. One of the things that hit me first was how little of a spark it throws, really, for what it's cutting, and how quickly I could grab that piece of metal and move it. It didn't transfer as much. You guys got a phone call there? Anyways, I was very impressed with how I could almost instantaneously grab that piece of metal and it wasn't nearly as hot as it may have been with a different cutting method. So I really like the machine. Now, the only thing I really didn't like about it was the cord that came with it. It came with a 2-pole 30 amp 220 cord, which in our area is not a receptacle that you're going to go to Home Depot and Lowe's around here and just go get it. That was kind of a disappointment. So what I did is I have some SO cord. If you don't know what SO cord is, if you go to your welder or any piece of equipment that is meant for the cord to be laying around, to get moved around, stepped on, this is SO cord. It's very flexible. The inside copper wire is actually very, very thin strands, and a lot of them twisted together, then insulated. Each conductor is insulated, and there's a big heavy rubber insulation around it, which makes the outside of the cord. So rather than wait for another plug, I opted to take the cord out, replace it with SO cord, and then I have a 50-foot cord instead of a little, I don't know what that was, 10-foot, something like that. And then I put on the end of the SO cord a more traditional plug like my welder uses, so that I can basically take it anywhere and plug it in. It's not a big deal. Not that I expect to do that, but if I had to, it's a more generally accepted, more used plug. So that was my only complaint about it, but I got to tell you, without this machine, we would have not got that bus body off in a day. It wouldn't have happened. That bus body was held onto the frame, and I really didn't like this method, but I'll tell you what it was. The main truck frame, the chassis frame, two pieces of what basically resemble two big C's, and the bus manufacturer lays a cross member across them, and then they use a piece of metal, I'll show you what it is, that looks like this profile right here, okay, and I'm sorry, it's turned, they have it installed like this. So what happens is, here's that C channel, you have your cross members coming across, this goes in the C channel on the bottom side, and then the cross member comes up here, and they bolt through here into the cross member and squeeze that on there. Those are on almost every cross member from front to back. The cross member and the floors are spaced, I'm guessing, I didn't measure them, but probably around 12, 16 inches on center, somewhere in that area. And that's what held the back of the bus on. So when you saw the video where I had the bus at the back 4 feet in the air, I was able to do that because Brandon had gone through there, and I think it was less than an hour, and cut all those off with this plasma cutter. And I was able to lift that up, and the reason being is once we got up on the frame rail closer to the front by the transmission, there was no more of these brackets. So from the transmission forward, the only thing that was on there was 2 pivot bolts in the front on springs. They had a bolt that went from the chassis to the body with a spring between them and a nut so it could move. And there was 2 more bolts holding some other stuff on. To my recollection, that was all that was there. So there wasn't a whole lot holding the body itself to the frame. There was more accessories, AC lines, heater lines, all the electric lines running front to back, the fuel lines, the air lines. I don't understand how this happened, but some of those airlines and fuel lines, whether they've been replaced or whatever, ended up running through part of the body, and was kind of a pain in the butt to get all that apart. But anyhow, the plasma cutter right here, this one, is the reason we were able to get that off so fast, because without that we would have fought every one of them body mounts. We would have fought so much stuff. I just used it not long ago, just earlier today, to cut all the bolts for the seats. I mean, something that they go down into the bottom of the rusty floor, and they go through the rubber floor, then there's wood, then there's steel, then there's the cross member. Everything underneath there is so rusty, I would have fought that forever, and I think within 15 or 20 minutes I had all them seat bolts cut out. Very, very time consuming. I don't know a lot about plasma cutters. This is the first time I've used one, first time I've had one. My son uses them all the time, and that's why we went with Hypertherm. One of the reasons he said that's what they use, and they're really trouble-free machine. So anyhow, we thought we had given that bus away to somebody who wanted to use it for storage. After talking with them for a little bit, the reason they wanted it was, obviously it was financial. They didn't have a lot of money, couldn't afford to build what they needed to store their stuff, and we really just didn't want a bus sitting in their backyard, Plus the logistics of lifting it, moving it, getting it off, getting it set, it just became more grief than where we ended up. And what we ended up doing is we decided to not give them the bus. We're going to go ahead and scrap that out, and I'll tell you what we're going to do with why we're scrapping it the way we are. I'll get to that in a minute. So what we're going to do is we're going to help these people build a shed. Where they live, you can build any structure 200 square feet and under without a building permit, no inspection. It doesn't get on your taxes. So raising taxes is a big thing. Nobody wants higher taxes. So their options are to build a 12 by 16 shed. These are some of the options, not the only options. A 12 by 16, they could do a 10 by 20, they could do a 12 by 16, 10 by 20, or 8 by 24. And for what they are trying to achieve, I suggest they build an 8 by 24. Now, an 8 by 24 shed is probably not the most attractive building because it's real narrow and it's long. But if you realize what it will be later, it'll make sense. So what we're going to do is we're going to, me and Brandon are going to take a few days, hopefully before the rain, and we're going to help them build this thing. Now, what we're going to build to begin with is one side of the shed, and it's going to be, if you look at the end of it, it's going to look like this. Okay, this is going to be the side they're going to access. This will be the lower side. It'll be a shed roof. This will be 8 foot wide, and this wall right here will be 24 feet long. And basically, let me see if I can draw this. Well, shoot, that ain't bad at all. Okay, so let's ignore this for a minute. But if you're looking at the back side of the building, this is what it'll be. This will be 8 foot. This will be 24 foot, and it'll be just over 7 foot tall here on this side and 8 foot tall on this side, and then the roof will just slope down like this. And the purpose of this is later, what they would like to do is when they get some more money, they would like to change it to look like more along the lines of this. So they would have the part we've already built, and then they want to add this on over here and leave this open so it's just a porch. So they'll be able to get in the shed and kind of have a porch to work on some stuff and all that. So that's something me and Brandon are going to help them do here in the next few days. They really don't have the finances to do it, so we're gonna step in and help them out, and when they get some money, they'll pay us back if they can. So that's how that'll work. So now let's get back to the bus. Our plans and why we're going to strip this bus the way we are is because I need to maximize that. No, I want to maximize the value out of that metal. So we're going to strip that down to, like I said before, 3 foot by 3 foot sections or smaller, and we're going to take them to the scrapyard. That is how you get the most. They call it prepared steel, and the reason we're doing this is Brandon is getting ready to go to CDL training. He has wanted to have his CDL for quite a while. I've wanted him to have his CDL for quite a while. Not because I want him to go out and get a truck driving job, and there's nothing wrong with truck driving. We owned a truck company for a long time, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, I've been through that life, and I don't want him on the road. And at his age, I want him around home, so when things come up and he needs our help, we're there to help him, and he's not out on the road somewhere. But one of the reasons he wants to do it is he can do so many different things. I mean, obviously you guys know he's a welder. What you don't know is he can work on diesels, he can work on gas, he can work on skid steers, track hose, backhoes, excavators, forklifts, cars, trucks, construction. Every construction property, if you've ever seen my videos about our cabin in the woods we're building, Brandon's been there since day one helping me build this thing. All the electric work that I do, I have a background as an electrician. Brandon's done that with me before, so anything I do, Brandon can do. He may not be had as much experience doing it as I have, but trust me, when I need help to do something, he's the go-to, because he thinks like I do. He's been by my side. So anyways, when he does this class is going to be all day long. It's going to be from early in the morning till late in the afternoon, so he's going to have a tough time working. So what we're going to do is we're going to strip that thing, try and get as much money out of it as we can, and we're going to take whatever we get out of it, and we're going to give it to Brandon to pay to his bills, so that while he's doing his CDL training, he doesn't have to quite worry so much. He doesn't have to pull as much money out of his savings, because the CDL training around here is not cheap to begin with. It's over $6,000. I think it's $6,600 he's spending to do this. Now, he could take one of my trucks and one of my trailers and just go take the test. However, it's one thing, because Brandon can drive anything I have. He can drive it, and I don't mean like he can get it down from driveway to driveway. I mean, I could put him in the truck, send him down the highway, and I could be comfortable that he can handle what that truck is and what that truck means. However, the difference is he doesn't know the laws, he doesn't know what inspections, what the regulations are of everything, and he doesn't know how to drive that truck like a testing facility or a testing agent would want him to. So it's a very expensive lesson, but it's going to be worth it when he starts to, if he ends up doing anything, he needs to know. Because if you're going to use I have a CDL as an employment card, to where, this is an asset, you need to know the laws and how everything works with DOT, healthcare, logbook, all that stuff, strapping, chains, binders, dunnage, all that stuff. So that's going to be beneficial. I don't want to spend $6,600 for it, but that's a cheap education for what it could give him and later in life. So anyway, so that's where we're at. I'm going to leave you on this. He's going to be going there probably within 3 weeks now. And if you see him in my videos, you see him a lot because he's working with me to try and accumulate as much money, because I'm paying him to come out so he can obviously pay his bills while he's doing this. So anyways, that's where I'm going to leave you today. It's about lunchtime, and I'm sure my wife has lunch. As you guys can tell, I don't miss meals. I didn't get this way jogging. I look like this because I like to eat, and I am hungry. So I'm going to leave you, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks again. Oh yeah, hey, if you like what we're doing, we need these. Give me these thumbs up. I really appreciate it. All you guys out there, I have a lot of subscribers. You guys, it's coming up good. I really, really appreciate that. And I really appreciate you guys watching. I'm watching the numbers rise. We have more and more people watching. You're watching for longer times, and I really appreciate it. I hope we make it interesting. If there's things you'd like to see us do, leave it in the comments, and I'll get back to you. If you leave a comment, I'll respond. I always do. I do have one. I should have brought this up. I didn't even think about it. I have one subscriber who has asked me questions about his international truck. He has a international tandem axle with a DT466. And he's trying to figure out, it's 22.5 tires, what rear end ratio he can run to make his DT466 run at the right RPMs where he can take it on the highway and pull, I think he's pulling a camper, and I might be wrong there. If I am, I apologize. But anyways, it's a tandem axle he's got, which it's a 4900 International apparently. It's going to be that or larger. But my advice, I tried to comment back. For whatever reason, YouTube will not let me reply to his comment. For whatever, he's a comment on several different things, and anything he comments on, it won't let me post a comment. So don't think I'm ignoring you. I've tried, it just won't. I don't know what's going on. So let me address that. If I was running a DT466 on the highway and I wanted to do at least 70 miles an hour, I figured this out the best I could. The specs you gave me lead me to believe you have an overdrive transmission. If you have an overdrive transmission, it's more than likely a 0.74, 0.78 to 1, something like that. If you continue to run the DT466 and that same transmission and it is an overdrive, I would look for a 410 rear end for that truck. That's the gear I would run. That will keep you under at the keep you at the optimum RPM range for that DT466, plus leave you a little bit more in those cases where you need a couple hundred more RPMs. So that would keep you, based on your engine, I'm guessing you have 11R22.5s or the metric equivalent of 22.5s, the transmission being at 0.78, 0.74, something like that, and trying to keep your RPMs of your DT466 1800-ish, somewhere in there, and maxing out at like 2200. That's going to get you to where you're going to be able to hit into the 70s. You'll be able to do high 60s, low 70s, somewhere in that area, depending on, you know, load, pull, hills, temperature, all that. If your transmission is not an overdrive, if it's a 1-to-1, you need to be in a 373 is where I shouldn't say you need to be. I would set that truck up with a 373 gear so that I could again keep that RPM range in the 18 to 2200. That's the great thing, because if you notice in a power curve, the horsepower curve on a DT466 and the torque, you're going to run out of horsepower way after you run out of torque. The torque, you know, levels out. I want to tell you that's 1300 RPMs it starts to level out. And horsepower, I think you start running out of horsepower at 1800, so you're just throwing diesel fuel out the tailpipe. So that's where I would say, and I apologize, I tried to comment back and forth, but for some reason it just wouldn't let me. But anyways, if I ever have that again, this is what I'll do. I'll post it on one of my videos and try and get back to you. So anyhow, I'm going to leave you with that, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks, guys.